Mary had a little lamb.
Fourth, we believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
What? It's $5 Friday, you bastards.
How about if a president orders the military to stage a coup?
A coup?
I think that, as the Chief Justice pointed out earlier, where there is a whole series of, sort of guidelines against that, so to speak, like the UCMJ prohibits the military from following a plainly unlawful act. If one adopted Justice Alito's test, that would fall outside. Now, if one adopts, for example, the Fitzgerald test that we advanced, that may well be an official act, and he would have to be, as I'll say in response to all these kinds of hypotheticals, has to be impeached and convicted before he can be criminally prosecuted. But I emphasize to the court—
Well, he's gone. Let's say this president who ordered the military to stage a coup. He's no longer president. He wasn't impeached. He couldn't be impeached. But he ordered the military to stage a coup, and you're saying that's an official act.
I think it would depend.
That's immune.
I think it would depend on the circumstances whether it was an official act. If it were an official act, again, he would have to be impeached.
Well, what does that mean, depend on the circumstances? He was the president. He is the commander-in-chief. He talks to his generals all the time. And he told the generals, I don't feel like leaving office. I want to stage a coup. Is that immune?
If it's an official act, there needs to be impeachment and conviction beforehand, because the framers viewed that kind of
If it's an official act, is it an official act?
If it's an official act, it's impeachment.
Is it an official act?
On the way you've described that hypothetical, it could well be. I just don't know. You'd have to, again, it's a fact-specific, context-specific determination.
That answer sounds to me as though it's like, yeah, under my test, it's an official act, but that sure sounds bad, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly sounds very bad, and that's why the framers have a whole series of structural checks that have successfully, for the last 234 years, prevented that very kind of extreme hypothetical.
A coup could be an official act. A coup. An illegal act of using the United States military to stay in office after you've lost an election, and through military force. He's saying, oh, well, the military would go to jail because he brings up the UCMJ, just so you know. That's why he brought that up. But the president, no, the president could be official, could be, maybe he thought that the incoming president was bad. And bad for the country, bad for America, would put America second, not first. And so he could order This is all happening on a split screen. While they're arguing whether or not Donald Trump specifically could engage in a coup as president of the United States and escape prosecution for it once he's no longer president of the United States, on the other side of the screen is a Google Doc where somebody is furiously typing the testimony being given in a criminal case against Donald Trump in New York. I mean, you can't make this up. Only in America, everybody. Only in America. It's so crazy. In my whole life, I never thought that I would hear a lawyer in front of the Supreme Court being, asked whether or not a coup is an official act of covered under presidential immunity, even after the president is not president anymore. I mean, this really stunned everybody. And so, we were the first show on the air when the Supreme Court concluded yesterday. And I mean, I told you that, listen, the Supreme Court was obviously trying to do Trump a favor. They delay for him because Donald Trump seems to win by losing. And be very careful, everybody. He loses a lot. Okay? He's a loser. But the idea that he's going to lose this case, he is going to lose this case, but they are so interested in delaying this case till after an election, where if somehow he manages to win the presidency or violently asserts that he won the presidency or goes to court to assert that he won the presidency and goes back to the Supremes and they say, okay, yeah, you won the, like in a Bush v. Gore situation, stop the counting, stop counting. We're done here. And they anoint him, then he will simply make this case go away by instructing his attorney general to drop it. And that will be the end of that. And they were not at all interested in protecting the United States of America from coups or from illegal activities or from violence at our Capitol. They weren't even interested in the actuality of January 6th. They did. I mean, Alito was just like sitting there saying, "Oh, we don't really have to get into the facts of the case. We just need to, figure out a way to delay it even more." And so let's engage in a fun game called Public or Private, right? And we'll read out some really heinous activities, and you will tell us, Mr. Sauer, whether or not the president is, if he does these things, doing it publicly or officially. I mean, privately or officially, if he's doing it, for himself, or if he's doing it as an official act of the presidency. And I mean, one of the things that came up was the coup. And Mr. Sauer said, well, it just depends. It depends on who he's cooing to protect against. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm frightened. I really am frightened. And so this is kind of why I keep on harping on the protests, okay? What's going on the campuses, because I understand, now a lot of I was surmising yesterday that graduations would be canceled. They are being canceled. We saw valedictorian speeches be canceled. We're seeing a lot of things be canceled. Students don't have classes in a lot of places anymore. They have to do everything online, right? Which is going to prepare them wonderfully for this current work environment that we're in. Everybody's working remote still. They don't want to put on clothes anymore. It's too much of a heavy lift to get out of your pajamas now. And so they're canceling graduate. And the reason why I'm so concerned is because the last time we saw protests of this magnitude, I will say, look, the protests after George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, those protests were everywhere. And those protests got violent in some areas. But it was very obvious on its face, that there was a good person named George Floyd, who really didn't do anything wrong except sit in his car, okay? And he was arrested and stomped on to the point where he literally couldn't catch his breath and died on a sidewalk, face down, calling for his mother. Here, there is no good guy here. There just isn't a good guy. And I keep on saying this, and people keep getting upset with me, but I'm so sorry. Hamas is a terrorist organization. They did actually kill 1,200 people in Israel on October 7th. That really did happen. And I know, there are some people in my audience that don't think it did. I mean, just switch channels then. Go watch Alex Jones. Just go ahead and dive on in. You wonder how that crap happens? That's how that happens. Denying reality, things that were caught on tape. I mean, you could see the kids being kidnapped from the Supernova Festival. You could see them. They still have 133 hostages. Didn't happen. Okay, then. I give up on you. Moving along, got bigger fish to fry. What is that? Getting Joe Biden reelected because Donald Trump is the alternative. Hello. And also, it's not the lesser of two evils, okay? Joe Biden is a man of character and integrity and a great list of accomplishments for working people. Just saying. There is a good guy in this. But when it comes to the retaliation that, Israel, the counterattack, the response, let's say, to October 7th, I'm sorry, but, it's fairly indiscriminate. It's really disgusting. It has to do with, all kinds of hospitals and the withholding of food and aid and humanitarian relief. I don't even think, see, this is the weird part. This is why there's no good guys. Just throwing this out there, too. The Palestinian, Gaza won't even let the Red Cross in there to see the hostages, okay? So there's a lot of really, swilly stuff moving around in that sewer. But there are no good guys. There just aren't. And these protesters want there to be a good guy, and they're choosing a good guy out of the two bad ones. And they intend to go to the Democratic National Convention and protest. And I keep on telling people that if it gets uglier, Trump wins. That's what happened in 1968. And I keep on trying to say to people, 1968 did not turn out well for the anti-war protesters, for the anti-war movement in this country. We lost the presidency and the war went on.
Clear for
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
They were literally just trying to help Trump's lawyers with the case to the point where Elena Kagan got the Trump lawyer to admit that he thought a coup, staging a coup, would be legal. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that was actually, you're hitting the nail on the head, because that was the most alarming part of the oral arguments of this parade of horribles that the liberal justices and some of the conservative justices were putting before Trump's lawyer. He was completely unfazed by that. So this kind of normalizes extremism. So as many of your viewers will recall, in the D.C. Circuit, the killer question that Judge Florence Pan, asked of John Sauer, Trump's lawyer, was if the president ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political opponent, would that individual would the president be liable criminally, To which the answer is, of course, yes, they would, No one is above the law, But John Sauer's answer was, well, it depends on whether he was impeached and then convicted, And so at that point, my jaw's on the floor, because I think that is an insane reading of the impeachment clause, the impeachment judgment clause. But it's also a very, very weird response that goes right to the rightmost edge, of political extremism. So I thought he's going to clean it up when he gets to the Supreme Court. He's going to practice this. He's going to move this. He's going to do it over and over again. Justice Sotomayor asked exactly that same question of what happens. And then he said, the same answer. The president would have to be impeached and convicted first. And basically at that point, Ellie and I were talking about this before, I thought this guy has made a bet. He's made a bet that if he just survives in the district court and the appellate court, he's going to be in front of a much more friendly audience. And he can make that argument and they will buy it and or throw him a lifeline. And sure enough, Justice Alito said, well, of course, that hypothetical was complicated because SEAL Team 6 has to obey the law. Unlike the president, SEAL Team 6 has to obey the law. And so that was what was alarming to me, is you had the highest court in the land sort of entertaining hypotheticals and having a serious argument that really normalizes extremism. And this is how extremism manifests itself in nation states,
And
which
none
is to
of
say
us
we're going to go more and more to the extreme, and then ordinary institutions of justice are going to accept that.
And none of us at this table believe that they believe any of these rules apply to Joe Biden.
Right. That's right. Joy Reid makes a great point. Do you think that any of these rules would apply to Joe Biden? What if Joe Biden actually started a coup because he didn't want to leave office, okay? What if Joe Biden was doing something Malum and say? We learned that yesterday, right? So evil that you actually have to stand on the wall and make sure that those things never can happen. That things that are just so completely evil, like a president just extrajudicially killing, let's say, homeless people because he wants them off the street and doesn't want policy that would help them house themselves because that's too much of a heavy lift, or it's too messy, or he thinks they're losers and suckers, things like that. So we have rules that say the president can't. But what if, he actually sells nuclear secrets to one of our enemies? His lawyer, honestly, is arguing to this very friendly, all male. It was Amy Coney joined the women, okay? Even though she's an ultra buttoned down conservative handmade type. She was a little appalled at what this lawyer was asserting was okay. But the five guys, they were sitting there going, well, the military has the UCMJ, and of course, obeying an illegal order would put low-ranking reservists who obeyed that order in Leavenworth. And we know that's exactly how it plays out, because that's exactly what happened when what's his face? The one that ordered the torture in Abu Ghraib, the Secretary of Defense, right? He put a note and he said, go ahead, put them on dog, do whatever you have to do, just get the information. And who went to jail? Who did? Did anybody in the administration go to jail? Oh, no, oh, hell no. The seven low-ranking reservists, okay? Lindy England, you might remember, Charles Rayner, right? Yeah, you remember them? She was pointing in the, Hey, I'm from West Virginia, and look what I got on a leash. You know, that kind of thing. And of course, everybody is celebrating now cruelty. It's a thing. It's being celebrated. You know, Christine Ohm, who's auditioning for vice president. Do you know what she actually said as part of her "Hey, I want this out because I am auditioning for vice president of the United States"? She put out that she's very very proud. I guess this is really gross, really really gross. I warn you. She put out that she had a 17-month-old puppy. I think the name was Cricket. Cute. And she killed it, and she hated that dog, and she was really happy she killed it. Cruelty is the thing now. I mean, it is actually what people in that party are celebrating and what they want to vote for. They want to, and you don't believe me? Okay. This is an ad. I cut it down because it goes on and on. This thing, I think, was anywhere from 5 to 8 minutes. I forget how long it was. But it was so completely outrageous for an American. For an American. I mean, you expect this in, like, I don't know, military juntas. You know what I'm saying? You expect this in, military countries where the leader of the country rules through the military might, right? This is a guy, he's the head of the Claremont Institute, swear to God. And he literally posted this proudly on Twitter.
Now that President Trump is the Republican nominee for president in 2024, it's time for Republicans, including those who doubt him or even can't stand him, to get behind him. The times demand it. We are in a war fighting an enemy of revolutionaries that kick and spit on America.
The Confederacy.
I call our enemy the woke regime or the group quota regime. This war is a contest between those who love America and those who hate it. But we do not have a commander-in-chief. You can't win a war without one. We shouldn't much care whether our commander-in-chief is a real conservative, whether he is a role model for children, or says lots of silly things, or whether he is modest or dignified. What we should care about is whether he knows we are in a war, knows who the enemy is, and knows how to win.
You're a little guy, aren't you? Who is the enemy? In his little, mental scenario, in his little psychological warfare, who is the enemy? Am I the enemy? Is it anybody that disagrees with you? That's your enemy now, and they must be, defeated. They must be removed. They must be put in camps. These people are so completely sociopathic. Truly, they're only into cruelty, murder, mayhem, chaos. I've said it a million times, because in chaos they can steal, and they want to steal. And what do they want? What do they want? Well, you got that whole Social Security trust fund. You got that. Big tranche of money, big, gigantic, trillions of dollars. They want it. They want it. Business doesn't want regulation or democracy. They don't want rules. They want to dump crap in your house.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Oh, everybody, it's $5 Friday. You bastards, you know what that is? You know what it is? Do you? Well, okay. So this is the day that we ask people to support Free Speech TV with a $5 recurring monthly donation. $5 every month. If you are already somebody that supports and invests in Free Speech TV, and you would like to increase your donation, your monthly recurring, by $5, you will also be in line to get a mystery box from us. And that's the thing with $5 Friday. It's like the first 50 people that either give $5 recurring or invest $5 more than they already do recurring. get a mystery box. So call us now at 877-378-8669 or visit us at freespeech.org. The org means we are a not-for-profit. We don't take any political money. We don't take any commercial money. Nobody pays for anything or any opinions or any positions that Free Speech TV hosts take. That's why we give our shows to Free Speech TV for nothing, because they don't tell us what our opinion should be. It's not like, hey, come work for us and, if we want your opinion, we'll give it to you. No, it's not like that at all. So that's why you hear a lot of diverse opinions on this particular platform. And if you would like to keep supporting it, today would be a wonderful day to do it. If you want to text us, please feel free to do that as well. FSTV, those are the letters you want to text to 44321. 44321, put in FSTV, and we will send you a secure link. On that link, you can make your recurring donation. You can turn it off anytime you desire. You can say, I don't want to do it this month, or I thought I could do it, but I can't. It doesn't feel comfortable to me. No problem. Just cancel it. We're done. Nobody comes and nobody knocks on your door and nobody tells you anything, okay? So it's the way we have been operating for 25 years at Free Speech TV. Thank you very much. Travin?
Trevin, like Trevor with an N, yes.
Oh, Trevor. Trevin,
yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
First time caller, long time listener. I hate saying that.
Yeah, but I would know. I've never talked to a Trevin before, so.
We're pretty rare.
Yeah.
I'm a huge talk radio fan because my dad was in the business years ago, and I hate to put you in third place. You're my third favorite talk show host. My first being Howard Stern, my second being Mr. Tom Likas, who, when you came back on air he announced he's retiring this week. Aww. And when you came back on the radio, when you came back, that's how I heard it through him, because he was on TuneIn, and he said, hey, I used to work with Randi in Florida, and she's on TuneIn as well, and that's how I knew you were back.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier in the show about the lesser of two evils, and I just mentioned Howard Stern. Mm-hmm. I turned on my car this morning, my Sirius pops in, and I could not believe my eyes when I saw that Howard was interviewing Joe Biden.
Yeah, I heard a little bit of it on my way in, but I really, there was no fanfare about it. There was no promotion. There was no nothing. I didn't know it was happening. I didn't know that was a thing. But I got in my car today and, Howard 100, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I heard it too. I heard Biden talking to Howard. In fact, when Brett came in, I had gone down a really interesting rabbit hole. When Brett came in, I was trying to listen for clips from that, from Howard Stern interviewing Joe Biden, so I could play them for people who missed it. And I went down this rabbit hole because Pearl Jam had been on Howard. And I ended up listening to Pearl Jam do their new stuff on the Stern Show. I never pulled the clips.
And I walked into the studio and immediately heard something we can't play on air.
Yeah, music. Yeah, is what it is. But yeah. But so how was it?
Well, it was great. And what I don't understand is all these Republicans always saying Sleepy Joe and Dementia Joe. And I never heard him stutter. I never heard signs of dementia. And everything he talked about, he's just such a wonderful, nice man. He talked a lot about what he went through when his wife and baby daughter died and his son's been in the hospital. And it's just so night and day compared to when Donald Trump was on Stern years ago and would talk about Kim Kardashian's fat butt and looking at naked 16-year-old girls because he owned the beauty pageant,
I remember when Donald Trump was on Howard Stern and Howard asked him about Ivanka's boobs, right? And that's his daughter, and he literally had a very long opinion about her body and how gorgeous her boobs were, how tall and thin she is, and I was very creepy, the whole thing. And then you realize, oh, he's best friends with Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein, and all this. This is his circle of friends. And now you're listening to, oh God, this is such an unfortunate name, but it turns out it fits. Now we're listening to David Pecker tell us that. Everything that happened at the National Enquirer, including saying Hillary was dying. Remember? Hillary, like Joe Biden has dementia, but Hillary was dying. She only had 6 months to live. Or Hillary was, fainting sporadically. She was unwell and all that crap. That was made up on purpose for Donald Trump's benefit, and they never, ever said that that was a campaign contribution, right? And so that's, part of the trial. That's part of the crime. And then I'm listening to, Biden. I heard the part where Biden was talking about how upset he got when he heard Donald Trump go to the cemetery in France and say that the soldiers that were buried in those graves from World War I and II were suckers and losers, And then he started, Howard Stern said, and John McCain too. And he said, yeah. And Howard said that he was able to meet John McCain before John McCain died, and what a great guy he was. He was just such a nice, wonderful, strong person. And Biden said he was just a stand-up guy. And when you listen to like all the stuff that Trump says about these really good people, whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them, that they're people of character and integrity. And then you find out from the people that are backing Donald Trump, like the Claremont Institute and the Heritage Foundation with their 2020, that all they want to do is cast aspersions and say, and then on top of it say, character doesn't matter. Integrity no longer matters. We're at war. America is at war, and we need somebody who knows who the enemy is, and we'll kill them.
Pathetic. And I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you remember, but Hillary Clinton came on to Howard too after the election, after she lost. I don't know if you remember that at all, but
I don't.
Well, she came on, did an interview, and it was amazing. And all these callers called in and said, if you would have done this exact same interview while you were running, I would have voted for you.
Oh, boy.
And so I think getting Biden on was a big win. Hopefully it gets some press, media coverage today in the news.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the mainstreams, I heard, I was also listening to Andrea Mitchell. She was like stunned and shocked. Why didn't he announce, because Biden made a little news today. He had said that he would debate, Donald Trump anytime, anywhere, wherever. He said that he actually thought that there was debates scheduled. He said, I am debating him somewhere. And thought that, and he goes, and I look forward to debating him. And so all of a sudden that broke on the wires, like Reuters and all that stuff picked it up. And Andrea Mitchell was like, he didn't break the news on NBC. He didn't break it on any of the, CNN. He didn't break it at the New York Times. The New York Times covers him wall to wall. I don't know why he wouldn't break it with the New York Times. Why didn't he break it with the Washington Post? He broke it with Howard Stern because Trevin listens to Howard Stern. That's why.
Randy, thank you so much. I love you.
Love you more. Seriously, that's why he did. And I don't think he meant to make news about anything, really. I think he really does think that there are 3 debates scheduled.
Clear. 4. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randy, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
At this point, people who expect anything less than the maximum partisan thuggery possible from the Republican justices are not paying attention, or worse, they're actively lying to themselves and the American people about what the Roberts Court has become. The question has long since ceased being whether the court will help Trump. The question is only how it will go about doing it. Say more.
Can we speak as adults for a second?
Let's please.
Because nothing that happened today with the Supreme Court being in the tank for Donald Trump is surprising to you.
No.
It's not surprising to me.
At all.
It's not surprising to your viewers at home. You know why? Because we're not stupid, all right? Donald Trump called his shot months ago. He said, my Supreme Court justices will never let this happen to me. And he was absolutely right.
Yep.
So with that information, my question to the American people is now, what are you prepared to do? Because the Supreme Court has exposed itself as a partisan institution full of hacks that will do everything in their power to protect Donald Trump and make sure that a Republican can be elected, not just in the next election, but in every election going forward.
Yeah, I mean,
so what are we going to do about that? And my answer to that, obviously, is that you cannot do anything in this country unless you expand the Supreme Court, take away their power, and as you say, start removing some of these conservative justices who have already expose themselves as criminals and liars.
And in many sense, also perjurers before the United States Senate when they got up and said stare decisis and lied about respecting precedent when it came to Roe v. Wade, lied to the faces of senators and got away with it.
Yes, that's called immunity, Joy. They are immune. They don't even have ethics rules that apply to them. Every other judge sitting on every other court, every single court in this country has ethics rules. The only exception is the Supreme Court. And so when they're listening to a lawyer argue to them that a president ought to have absolute immunity, they are sitting there enjoying absolute immunity and knowing what a picnic it is. And that's why Clarence Thomas didn't recuse himself. Remember, this was absolute immunity tied to an insurrection on January 6th. This was immunity tied to a slate of fake electors in various states. Things that people got indicted for being part of, things that Rudy Giuliani was indicted for yesterday while they were sitting here listening to absolute immunity arguments for Donald Trump, and they were enjoying absolute immunity. You know, it's really sick and twisted to listen to Clarence Thomas be there, let alone ask questions about absolute immunity when he's enjoying absolute immunity to the point where, I mean, I honestly don't know, like, what could Clarence Thomas ever do that would turn America against him and demand all of a sudden that the Supreme Court have some ethics rules firmly in place and a way to enforce them? I don't know what it would take, honestly. Because he has shown you everything. He has shown you that he takes money. He has shown you photographs of him with the people that pay him. He has shown you that, he has a $267,000 RV that was given to him. He has shown you that his mother's house was purchased by a giant donor. He has shown you that his mother still lives in the house that was purchased by a giant donor. And nobody is screaming and yelling. They're not out in the streets. They're not upset about it. They don't, demand that he, resign his. Nothing. Nothing happens. I sit there and I just marvel at it. And then, people are literally getting indicted for the stuff that they are delaying Donald Trump's day in court. Now, it was so interesting yesterday because in Arizona, there was this big indictment. It was huge, right? And it hit just before we went on there. I mean, yesterday was like, whoa. Supreme Court argument, Rudy gets indicted, Donald Trump is on a split screen, David Pecker, oh God, on the stand. I mean, all this stuff happening, at 3 o'clock Eastern time yesterday. So Rudy was actually indicted yesterday along with a whole bunch of others, Jenna Ellis and John Eastman, the whole cast of characters, Christina Bobb, all of them indicted yesterday for the same thing. The Supreme Court is saying, well, it may have been an official act, hiring private lawyers to create fake slates of electors. I mean, we played you Sotomayor saying he's entitled to do, and his lawyer Sawyer said, well, those electors were only going to be used in the case that that you guys said that the election, was flawed or tainted or that it was stolen, right? That there was fraud. That's the only time they would have been used. And she said, but he hired a private lawyer and he asked them to say that they were the duly elected electors, even though he knew they were fake. And you're still saying that's an official act? That's okay? Oh, yeah. And Rudy's going to, under indictment now. I swear to God, they're all charged with, by the way, I read it. So now it's conspiracy, fraudulent schemes and artifices, I swear, fraudulent schemes and practices, and forgery. Or doing Donald Trump's bidding. Why don't you just put that and put it into the criminal code, 18 USC. Just put it in there, doing Trump stuff. And give it immunity or something like that. List the crimes and just say, you can do this. You can have a coup. You can do fake electors. You can incite violence at the Capitol. You can beat police officers. You can clear Lafayette Park with force if you feel like crossing through a protest because you want to hold the Bible upside down in front of a church. I mean, it's so sickening to watch all this happen at the same exact time and to see protesters literally protesting and calling Biden a war criminal. Biden is the war criminal. Are you deaf, dumb, and blind to everything that Donald Trump did for Benjamin Netanyahu? I mean, did you sleep through that whole episode of moving the embassy to Jerusalem? Which, by the way, there's an offer on the table. I don't know if any protesters are interested in anything about that region. I don't think they're interested in the current events about that region or the state of play in that region. They just want to protest because it looks fun and somebody's giving them tents, I guess. But if you want to know, Hamas had said that they would put down their weapons. They would disband the military portion of Hamas, where you see the signs that say the next target of the Qassam Brigade is, this. And there's an arrow pointing to Jewish students like that. So Hamas said that they would lay down their weapons. They would become just a straight up political party. They wouldn't do any violence anymore. They would release the hostages. In exchange for a Palestinian state that goes back to the borders of 1967. Just in case you wanted to know anything about the region that you're protesting, that is there. I don't think that Israel would ever accept anything quite like that, because 1967 to them just means, the Beatles were releasing Revolver or something. I don't know. They don't care. They don't care. And this is the problem. It's interesting because when we had the last peace talks with Oslo Accords, before that we had Jimmy Carter and, Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat. You had before him, what was his name? I was talking to you about him yesterday, Brett. And the PLO, the leader of Yasser Arafat. And Arafat said that he was willing to make, and then as soon as peace became a thing, he realized, I won't be getting money anymore if I just, do a straight up political party and I actually make the peace. So it wasn't profitable. So the PLO never made the peace. I just want you to know there are no good guys here. There just aren't. But the protesters have selected Joe Biden for their ire. And last time people, actually selected a Democrat for their anti-war behavior, not only did it cost us Robert Kennedy's life, not only did it cost us Martin Luther King Jr.'s life in 1968, but when they went to the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, the police rioted on your ass, beat the crap out of you, protesters, and frankly, America didn't care who was beating who. They just wanted the beatings to stop. And they voted for Richard Nixon. And guess what happened? Guess. That's right. The Vietnam War continued. They voted for a criminal who said he had a secret plan to end the war. They voted for him. And the war went on and on and on until 1968, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75. 7 more years. 58,000 would die. Something tells me maybe if you didn't go to the Democratic National Convention in 68 in Chicago, where it is this year too, I don't know. Maybe if you just showed up to vote, you could get the result you were looking for.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
The lesser of two evils.
The president signed the bipartisan infrastructure bill, CHIPS and Science Act.
The landmark Inflation Reduction Act.
Hard-fought victory for the president.
These massive pieces of legislation have been passed. It's incredible, but it isn't like Schoolhouse Rock, okay? There's lots of work to be done after the president actually signs a bill. They can write the rules so the rules work for working people. They can write the rules so the rules don't work for working people. The language that President Biden put in the legislation, he's got everybody covered. Forgot about nobody. It's been amazing.
15 million new jobs in just 3 years. 800,000 new manufacturing jobs in America and counting.
So many times we were promised and then nobody really delivered. Once again, somebody comes in and promises, only lo and behold, delivering.
Huh.
I think we'll step back from where we're at in a few years, and we'll realize how big the impact of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris has been. With the monumental pieces of legislation that they passed that are just now starting to take root from coast to coast in this country. The future is so bright, it's unbelievable.
Bring us all together.
Ooh, music. Uh-oh. Get ready to edit that out, everybody, on my team. But you know who that was? That's Sean McGarvey. He is the president of the National Association of Builders Trade Union. Okay, and he has known Donald Trump. I went through this the other day because obviously they got the endorsement. Joe Biden's administration got the endorsement of the National Association of Builders Trades Union, which really was something that Donald Trump was relying on. Why? Because Donald Trump's a builder, see? And so at the last time that Donald Trump promised infrastructure, they sort of kind of wanted to believe him, and nothing ever happened. In fact, they were so unbelievably amazed and disappointed at the intensity of Donald Trump's care for Donald Trump and no one else. And Sean McGarvey put together an ad for Joe Biden after the union endorsed him. You're talking like 3 million people. I mean, it's a big thing. It's huge. It's great, too, because Biden is the union guy. He believes in collective bargaining. He understands that when we go in to a corporate office, we shouldn't have to go in alone. We should be going in with the brethren that do the same jobs we do and demand equal, pay for people that are working in union shops, non-union, across this country by saying collectively we're bargaining for pension funds. Collectively we're bargaining for, a share of the business. Collectively we're bargaining for 7 sick days. Collectively we're bargaining for wages. Collectively we're bargaining for health insurance benefits, right? On day one. Why would you try to do that alone if you could collectively do that with 2,999,999 other people? See, that's what unions are there for. Anyway, he put out this ad and he explained how Donald Trump was all about Donald Trump.
You would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Donald Trump, he's not a good man. He's not a good person. He does not care about anybody in this world except Donald Trump. That's it. That's all.
A very clear and present danger.
Now he's looking to get in that position again to exert revenge on people. I go all the way back to the 80s with Donald Trump and him trying to, get his mug on page 6 of the New York Post. The only difference between the Donald Trump of the 80s and the Donald Trump of today is he feels totally free to let his dark side out. And his dark side is very, very dark and very, very dangerous for this country. We can't let our democracy that we've worked for and we've cherished just disintegrate with the wrong leader at the wrong time. I can tell you that he personally committed to me that he was going to get our pensions fixed. He understood who was affected by these pensions. He assured me, I'm the President of the United States, I'll just call Mitch, I'll tell him to put it in the bill. Is everybody going to love me? Everybody loves me, right? Is everybody going to love me? Yes, Mr. President, you fix the pension, everybody's going to love you. Well, that was wasted breath. There was lots of other things put in that bill. There was tax cuts put in that bill for rich people. Donald Trump promised infrastructure every year.
Infrastructure is the easiest of all.
Donald Trump was not interested in any of the policy that actually goes along with being president of the United States. Trump was interested in the pomp and circumstance, the plane, the helicopter. It's all about him. Donald Trump is incapable of running anything, let alone the most powerful country in the history of the world. And God help us if he gets anywhere near that White House in the future.
Beautifully done. I mean, these are people, when you look at the union leaders, bless you. Brett's sick.
Thank you.
Oh, you sound awful. You really do. I'm suffering from some sort of a Hy-Vee thing. I don't know. It's like, I have dry eye. And the doctor's throwing everything that he has at the dry eye issue and gave me some doxycycline. And I still have the dry eye, which is counterintuitive because my eyes are dripping, okay? And now I'm broken out in like some weird rashy thing, and Brett's sick. Can't even, breathe.
Tony's got 2 beautiful daughters. I love them very much. They are getting me sick on a constant basis.
Children are petri dishes.
I am getting sick constantly. I went 30 years without getting a cold, and now I've had 3 in the last couple months.
They're petri dishes, man. They go to school with other kids. I know. No, you're not. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's they're building up their immune systems is what they're doing, and you have to suffer right along with them. Is basically what happens there. They go to school and they bring home everything that the neighbor kid has. Right, everything, and at least now, chickenpox isn't a thing anymore. Mumps and measles aren't a thing anymore, right? Unless you live in Florida. They want to make measles great again. They want to make mumps a thing again. They want to make chickenpox, and polio great again. I mean, these are some sick, twisted, the word I want to use. It begins with an F. That's who they are. But Brett, I've never seen Brett sick. We've been working together, what, like 7 years? Some crazy
8,
amount?
I think the better part of 8.
Oh, my God. I have never seen him sick, ever.
It's been like literally 3 times in the last handful of months.
Well, I wish I knew if there was a doctor listening. I wish I knew if doxycycline had a side effect of rashy, because I never have anything like that. Never. And I'm so itchy, inside, outside, just so itchy. Good God, man. All right, Dan in California.
Hey, Randy.
Hey.
So I kind of wrote down a couple things. So,
okay.
The Supreme Court, I noticed they weren't trying to figure out and decipher what the law says. They were making law. They were basically saying, wouldn't it be better if this was the law?
Yeah.
So it kind of makes me feel like, they're kind of in on it. He's not doing this by himself. It's like he's got the Supreme Court that is just, we keep thinking that they're going to come up with some middle ruling, or they're going to.
They are. They are.
You think they're going to? You think they are? They're going to come up with some ruling that says that doesn't say. I think if it comes down to it, they'll just say, "Yep, he's got full immunity." If he gets.
No, because then it would actually apply to Biden, and they will never do that.
They won't do it until after the election.
No. They have to do it in June. That's ahead of the election. Okay.
They have to make that ruling in June.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. That makes me feel a little bit better.
They hear hear the thing in the session, and then at the end of the session, they issue all their rulings on everything that they took and everything that they heard. And this is one that they took, and this is one that they heard. I'll tell you, the worst case scenario for us, for people who give a damn about law and order, people who care that the president is not above the law, people who don't want to live in a military junta, whatever the hell you call governments like that. The worst thing that they will do is say, well, he doesn't have complete and total immunity for private acts, for things he does for himself to benefit himself, like when he acts as candidate Trump. He doesn't have full immunity. But there are some official acts that he did that might be immune from prosecution, and we need to figure out what those are. So we're going to remand, which is lawyer speak for send it back to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, because they never weighed in on what was an official act and what was a private act. And the reason they didn't is because they said no man is above the law. And they were correct. But if they send it back down there, they're going to have to figure out what's private and what's official.
On TV.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Okay, this is Congressmember Zoe Lofgren, who is a brilliant lawyer, and was on the January 6th Select Committee. And she weighed in on what's going on at the Supreme Court last night, too.
It's possible they could lift the stay and make a decision that whatever immunity
could possibly exist. In this case, clearly there is no immunity, and the court could then proceed. That would be, at this point, the best outcome.
Right.
We do have some state court actions. The indictment in Arizona is interesting, and obviously the former president is an unindicted co-conspirator. We don't know why unindicted, but potentially they are waiting for the immunity ruling as well. And there's a 7-year statute of limitations for those crimes, so he could be added. We may get quick action there. The state courts seem to move a little bit faster than the federal courts. But the distressing thing, those of us who are, all the lawyers are also considered officers of the court. And we're trained to believe in the impartiality of especially the Supreme Court. And I've got to say, our faith has been shaken. They look corrupt. The process used to appoint them was rigged, and they appear to be partisan hacks. Wow. And it's really a very distressing situation for our American democracy.
Wow.
Wow.
So what else can you say to that? That's Zoe Lofgren. I mean, she always comports herself with an enormous amount of integrity and dignity. She's not a rabble-rouser. She's not a flamethrower. She's a follow the facts wherever they lead type lawyer. She's, part of the House. She did the investigation into January 6th. She, exposed what was going on with the fake elector slates, etc., as part of a team. That included Adam Kinzinger, who's a Republican, and included Liz Cheney, who's a Republican from Wyoming, no less. And, some other brilliant lawyers like, Jamie and from California. Oh, God, I could see his face. I blame the doxy. Adam Schiff. But, they all did their work. They put their head down. They looked at hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of, depositions that were given by people that were inside the White House that day, Cassidy Hutchinson, and they talked to state legislators like Rusty Bowers, right? I mean, they went everywhere to find out what was going on with regard to trying to rig this election, trying to overthrow the results. And the Supreme Court is trying to delay Donald Trump meeting the bar of justice for those crimes. And so she put forward the best case scenario. The best case scenario is that they weigh in before the end of the term, right? They don't have to weigh in before the end of the term, which would be June or early July. They don't have to, but it would be great if they did. And they lifted the stay on Judge Chutkan in D.C. and said she can now proceed with the trial. If they waited until June or early July to issue their opinion, and their opinion includes being able to go ahead with this trial in D.C., there just might be a slim chance, that a trial could happen about 3 months from then. So it would be June, July, August, September. It would be right ahead of the November election by 2 months. But wasn't Amy Coney Barrett picked to be on the Supreme Court, with such short timing away from an election? Just saying, there are no rules about any of this. So it is possible. And so the dark side of me, the very, worst case scenario, is that the Supreme Court has to weigh in, and they do. But they say, okay, so for private acts, like when he hired Rudy Giuliani to go out there and make slates of fake electors, he was acting as a candidate in his private capacity as citizen Trump. And yes, he could be tried for doing those bad things, or those things, not characterize them, but just say that he could be tried for doing those things. But they could also say there are lots of things he did in his official capacity as president, and he needs immunity so that the next president can be free to do those bad things without worrying that when he's not president anymore, he'll be prosecuted. We have not had that kind of immunity in writing ever in these United States for any past president or for never. And somehow we're still a democracy, and somehow we haven't, tried any presidents. I mean, there was one that was probably going to go on trial. That would be Richard Nixon. But Gerald Ford pardoned him. sacrificing his own presidency for Richard Nixon's presidency. And if that wasn't needed, right, if it wasn't, if a president had absolute immunity, as Donald Trump is asserting he does, well, then Richard Nixon wouldn't have needed a pardon. And I keep on saying, use that as an example if you come across anybody who argues, oh, well, the president can't do his job unless he's not afraid that he's going to be prosecuted when he gets out of office. No president has been prosecuted when they got out of office. Like never, ever, never. And we've had presidents that did some really ugly crap, like, Andrew Jackson, the Indian removal crap. Okay, we've had some really bad things. We also had the Japanese internment camps during World War II. Okay, nobody's ever gone on trial. They have heard the case of the what was it, Karamatsu decision, and said, don't ever do that again because that's unconstitutional. Never do that again. But nobody got prosecuted. They just make law preventing the bad behavior from ever happening again. But this is a man who literally incited violence against his own capital. That's never happened before, and that's why we're in this territory. That's why we're here. And the problem is that one of the MOs, one of the goals, believe it or not, this is not an unintended consequence. This is a goal. This is an actual purpose that Republicans have. They want to make you doubt all the institutions in the United States that hold powerful people accountable. They want to make you doubt the Congress, which is why Congress has an 18% approval rating, okay? And they don't care. They just don't care, okay? They want you to believe that Congress doesn't work. The Republicans do because they don't want government. They want to drown it. Remember, they said they want to make government so small they could drown it in a bathtub. It's their goal. It's their stated position. Why? Because that's what the oligarchs want. That's what the money is paying them for. Not only to get rid of regulation, so that they can dump crap on your lawn if they felt like it, or turn every little river into Love Canal. Okay, they want to make every place a Superfund site, so that they don't have to, deal with getting rid of their own waste. It's gross, but that's why they hate regulation. That's why Donald Trump was always saying, "Oh, we deregulated this, Meanwhile, Biden's putting regulations in place that say, "Hey, if you paid for Wi-Fi and a checked bag." And your Wi-Fi didn't work and your bag didn't get there, you get your money back. Okay? It's a regulation. But that's what the big money wants, and so that's what Republicans do. And if you literally got rid of the government because you really didn't trust it anymore, which is what a lot of MAGA folks are all about, they'd be thrilled with it. They'd be so happy with it. Oh, my God, that would be the best result ever. And all that would be left is the Supreme Court. And guess what? They're making you doubt that, too.
Call in, connect.
Yes.
To speak to Randi,
Okay.
call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Yes, that would be the Randi Rhodes Show phone number. I'm going to give you a different phone number to call right now. A different one. You will not be calling the Randi Rhodes Show. You will be calling Free Speech TV in beautiful Denver, Colorado. And you will be pledging $5 on $5 Friday so that Free Speech TV can count on your $5 every single month. Yes, it's $5 Friday. The Fridays that you make recurring donations to Free Speech TV. Now, $5 is really, something I think everybody can spare. You spend that on a cup of coffee, okay? And if you actually combined all of our listeners, all of our viewers, and everybody gave $5, we probably could stop having pledge drives. But, only 1% of everybody ever calls or gives. And that's why we have to do them every quarter and, just randomly on a Friday here and there, sprinkle them in. So today is one of those random sprinkled in Fridays. And the reason why you want to do this is because you know now that Free Speech TV has very smart conversations across the spectrum of opinions, okay? And it allows for you to sort through those opinions. It allows for you to look at whatever facts are being put forward and for you to decide what the best conclusion is for you, for your family, for your household. Like this thing with, the Middle East. There are a plethora of different opinions about it. And they're all on this here channel. And it's a good thing. So please become a sustaining member today by visiting freespeech.org/donate, freespeech.org/donate, or text 44321, text FSTV to 44321, like a countdown, or go ahead and dial the people in Denver, Colorado, 877-378-8669, and they will be very happy to take your recurring $5 donation. Now, if you already do $5, if you could increase by $5, wonderful, beautiful. We would be so thrilled with you. So thank you very much. This last I will say about it. Now we can enjoy the show. Okay. Susan in Oregon.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, Susan.
I love you. I love your show.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a couple comments on the Supreme Court this week. Thank you for talking about it. First off, just a real quick one, because I think we've covered pretty much that this is just ludicrous that this president would get immunity for everything he does while he's president. So I think if the Supreme Court's leaning that way, that Joe Biden should just come out and say, you know, I'm president and I can do whatever I want to, so I'm going to throw Trump in prison. Or better yet, banish him to some frickin' island.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm the president. I can do it, right?
I can do whatever I want. That's right.
But I also wanted to comment on the case earlier this week that's just got me really disturbed about the emergency abortion issues in Idaho.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I was listening to the arguments and everything, and
oh, my God.
I've called you once before. My grandmother died of an illegal abortion 90 years ago.
Oh, my God.
And left behind 6 children with an alcoholic, my grandfather. And they were all raised like cousins, you know?
Yeah.
Split up.
Yeah, I know.
But, I mean, the horror
it is,
of that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this is like living in my grandmother's era.
Yes.
I mean, thank God I'm 66 years old and not childbearing age anymore.
Me too. I think about that all the time. However, I have to say, you know, Jessica wants to have a baby very badly. She put her career first, and now she's ready. And, you know, if she's pregnant, I told her you cannot do it here in Florida, because she asked me, would I help? And I said, of course I'll help. Of course I will. But you can't be pregnant here. She lives in California. I'm like, stay there and be pregnant. Well, I don't want to be pregnant alone. I'm like, but you can't be pregnant here. She goes, why? I'm not going to have an abortion. I want to have a baby. I go, don't you understand that you can't get care here? God forbid something goes south.
Something happens.
6 weeks, you can't get tended to. You can't be pregnant here.
That's what I was just going to say is any woman that has any means that's of childbearing age, move to a blue state. I mean, it's just...
It should. It's horrendous. I have never seen...
To top it all off, I mean, I got this meme today, and I have to read it. It says, when the penalty for aborting after rape is more severe than the penalty for rape, that's when you know it's a war on women.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Randy, for all you do.
Thank you very much.
That's perfectly said, right?
Perfect. It's bumper sticker stuff. It's so concise and so to the point. And what she said, in case you couldn't understand or didn't hear, because there was a little bumpering on the phone, she said, when the penalty for an abortion after rape is more severe than the penalty for rape, you know something's gone bad, okay? I've never seen a court take away so many rights, and people in the United States, you know, just sit still for it in this weird way that people are sitting still for it. But see, the whole court is illegitimate. And this was also by design. This goes back to what we were saying before the break, right? Before the break, I was trying to explain to you that the Republican Party wants to burn it all down to the ground. And there's no exaggeration there. And part of the methodology of doing that is to make you doubt every single institution of government that's supposed to get your back, that's supposed to protect democracy. The big picture people, because the people that they're sowing doubt about are people upon whose desks easy problems do not fall. They don't appear on easy problems appear on my desk, maybe your desk, but they don't appear on the president's desk, and they don't appear on the Supreme Court Chief Justice's desk. Okay, these are the intractable problems or continuing problems that need a solution. And even if the solution is just a sliver of the problem being solved, it's not the whole problem. We're just going to incrementally move into a progressive era. We're just going to incrementally move to voting rights. We're just going to incrementally move to desegregation. We're just going to incrementally have a war on poverty. Maybe we'll just deal with Appalachia first. Maybe we'll just deal with seniors first. Okay, let's just deal with seniors first. Let's add Medicare to Social Security and end the problem of senior citizens dying in poverty for lack of health care. Let's just, and then let's not solve the entire problem of single-payer health care with Medicare, just the seniors. And then maybe we'll do a carve-out if we get a Hillary Clinton as a first lady kind of a thing. The twofer that we got in the 90s. Well, we'll carve out another health care plan for children. We'll call it the Children's Health Insurance Plan, CHIPS, right? We'll do that. We're not going to solve the whole problem. We're just going to solve incrementally. You know why they do that? They do that because you're going to push back no matter what. There's always backlash to progress in this country. We elected a black president, and all of a sudden everybody's racist again. What? Yeah, backlash. So they solve problems incrementally, and the Supreme Court's going to do it too with the immunity thing. Yeah, they will. But people are being told that the reason why incremental progress happens, if at all, is because it's a corrupt system. The whole thing is corrupt. So that you will want to get rid of it all. That is why Donald Trump dirtied up the Supreme Court in the way that he did. And he did.
Clear. Fatality. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
One of the reasons why people don't have a lot of faith in this court is because this is the first Supreme Court since we have had the second Reconstruction in this country, meaning the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, that started actually making sure the Constitution applied. It is the first court that has actually taken away from the American people fundamental rights, the fundamental right to abortion, for example. I mean, there are all kinds. Voting rights, it has greatly eroded, but it's also how it was constituted, right? You had an Alina Habba that said, this is going to go well for Trump because he appointed the justices. That's something you wouldn't normally hear a lawyer say out loud. Ever. For very good reason, because it's not supposed to be true, nor is it considered very politic to say it. But in this case, I think the American public's also looking at these justices. You make the point about Clarence Thomas and the fact that he should be recused. He shouldn't even be sitting up there because of Ginny Thomas's activities. But we also have, and his own, but we also have the fact that Neil Gorsuch would not be on that court if it weren't that Mitch McConnell made up a rule that didn't exist that said Barack Obama didn't get a hearing on his nominee for a vacancy a year before an election. Amy Coney Barrett, therefore, should not be on that court because if that rule that didn't exist had existed, she would have been just a few months outside of that reelection. So all I'm saying is everybody's looking at this saying, the court itself is rigged. You know, if you think about the democratic processes by which we have usually had bipartisan agreement about how the Supreme Court's even constituted and what it actually does. So when you get to this point, what do you expect? What do you expect?
Really, that's the whole thing, though. The thing is, as smart as Maya Wiley is, and as smart as Andrew Weissman is, and as smart as Zoe Lofgren is, and as smart as, Ellie Mistel is, they all get what's going on. They see what's going on. They understand rules were made up to pack that court full of, sycophants that, worshipped at Donald Trump's knee to the point where they would lie. They would lie their way onto the Supreme Court, right? They would say, Roe is precedent on precedent. Roe is precedent and then backed up by Casey. And so it's precedent on precedent. And they were lying. They were lying. They were licking their chops. They couldn't wait to take away a right to privacy that women enjoyed in this country for 50 years to the benefit of their health and well-being and their ability to have healthy children when they wanted to. Now you have women being aeromedically backed out of Idaho because doctors are so afraid of going to jail if they tend to a woman who is septic because her water broke too early and the pregnancy is no longer viable, or a woman who's facing organ failure because the pregnancy's gone sideways. They can't even tend to her. They have to put her on a helicopter and send her to another state now. That used to happen once a year in Idaho, and now it's happening regularly. There have been 6 women in 2 months that had to get on a helicopter and the aeromedical evacuated out of Idaho. Out of Idaho. Think about that. It's an American state. I mean, that's crazy to say that, but it is true. And the idea that Clarence Thomas is not recused from this particular matter when, in his bed as an insurrectionist. Maybe there's 2 insurrectionists in that bed. We don't know. But I could tell you that he is so tainted, he is a Superfund toxic cleanup site. Okay? He has photographs of him with big donors paying his way. We all know how much money he took. And I'm telling you right now, Clarence wouldn't recuse himself if the case had to do with, a white supremacist painting swastikas on his $250,000 RV that was donated by, Harlan Crow. He still wouldn't recuse himself. Even if he was the victim of the crime, he wouldn't recuse himself. There's no way. No way. And that also sows doubt, and that is by design. It's all to make us say, can't trust anybody, might as well just abolish everything. What we need now is a strong man, just one single man in whom we can put all of our faith and trust that he will get it right. That's sick and twisted. When did you ever see a country that didn't have checks and balances, or didn't have elections, or didn't have, Congress or a parliament debating the hard issues of the day succeed? When did you ever see a place with no government succeed? Oh, Somalia. Let's look over there. You know what I'm saying? When did you ever see a strong man bring peace and tranquility? When has that ever happened? Never is the correct answer. Because that strong man is just going to be concerned with staying that way. You think Putin has a successful country there? Do you know how poor Russians are? Do you have any idea? And that their children are conscripted into his wars of choice, and that they are thrown into harm's way as cannon fodder. Because the way Putin fights is through attrition. The way Putin fights is to the last dead boy. That's what, until the mothers, rise up and say, they're coming for you. And then he'll pull back. But he'll stay in Afghanistan for 9 freaking years. Where do you get that kind of manpower to serve in, to put in front of bullets and bombs? Well, you go and you recruit from the poorest people in Russia. That's what he does. And he fights to attrition. What do you think Iran is doing? What do you think Iran is doing? They'll fight to the last proxy's dead. They'll fight to the last Hezbollah guy's dead, to the last Hamas fighter's dead, to the last Houthis dead. But you see what happens when, all of a sudden, it's them, Iran, having to take on somebody. They don't want no war. Oh, no. They're like, listen, we're going to launch some stuff to keep the street quiet because, our people are, really peeved and really pissed that you killed some of our generals. They're not happy with, what you did in Syria to our embassy, and we're going to have to do a little something. But it will all be just fireworks, okay? Because we know you got the Iron Dome, and we're just going to launch everything where you can intercept, and America will be up there and intercept. No one will get hurt. And the only person in all that fireworks that got hurt was one little Bedouin girl in Israel. Unfortunately, a little Arab child. And Iran, actually is responsible for her death. And then Israel was like, well, now we have to retaliate. All right. What are you going to do? Well, not much, okay? We're going to take the win. It'll be fine. That's what happens when you have to actually have skin in the game and you're a strong man. You're Iran or you're Putin. As long as you can, take other people's children and throw them at the war, you'll do it. You'll do it. That's why I keep on telling you there's no one to root for in this Middle East thing. What you really want to see is diplomacy, period, end of story. It's the only way. It's the only way. Zach in Tennessee.
Hey, Randy. How you doing?
All
Friday?
right. Thank you. Yes, I know.
Oh, yeah, it's been a rough time. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what you were saying about some of the protesters. I've been discouraged by some of the discourse that I hear from some of our friends on the maybe further left, nominally, far left. People like a guy that I listen to, and I know you know, like Sam Cedar, voices from his show. Every other word, he has some younger hosts, and every other word that they drop is either Zionist, colonial settlers, and a lot of the animus is directed at Biden. I hear.
Biden just sent $9 billion worth of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Okay,
yeah. And they don't care.
Well, they don't care,
think that
but
everything is insufficient. I know it irritates me. I know you're right.
I know. But listen, the idea that Donald Trump wouldn't nuke Gaza, I mean, that's insane. Of course he would.
Sure.
Of course he would. But it's not the answer to any of these problems. It's just not. So.
Well, I'll
tell you this right now. Protesters and police at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago.
Oh my God.
Right. Exactly.
Powder keg.
Exactly.
Stay away.
This has got to stop. It has to stop. People have got to say the best thing to do is to vote. Biden has told Israel that the aid is dependent on their behavior. It's not our war, it's theirs. I don't know what else you want. I don't know what else can be done. Netanyahu is Donald Trump. He is the Trump of the Middle East. He is. Smarten up, everybody. Take the weekend. Think about it. Think about it. Because it's not going to end for us.